Did something happen?
In the vast landscape of horror subsets and genre mashups, one fusion stands out as a match made in heaven, or hell, depending on your perspective: the Western horror movies. Westerns are usually related with Clint Eastwood to broad-brimmed and high-crowned Stetson hats, neckerchief bandanas, cowboy boots, and a lot of gunslinging. But when you throw a bit of horror into the mix, and the gritty backdrop of the Old West blends with the chilling elements of supernatural terror like a fine cocktail. And in this video, we will explore 12 such gems of Western horror. So saddle up, fellow cowboys, as we are about to begin. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Bone Tomahawk, 2015. Bone Tomahawk is set in the late 19th century and revolves around two individuals named Purvis and Buddy, who sustain themselves by thieving and robbing between New Mexico and Texas. While looking for more victims to rob and murder, they come across a Native American burial site. The men destroy the burial site, disrespecting a cannibalistic tribe and attracting their violent attraction. Buddy loses his life during the encounter, while Purvis manages to escape to the town of Bright Hope. Unbeknownst to Purvis, the tribe follows him to Bright Hope and proceeds to abduct him, along with Samantha, a medical assistant, and Nick, a deputy sheriff. In response, Sheriff Franklin Hunt seeks the assistance of an educated Native American who informs him that the tribe is known as troglodytes, as they do not possess a spoken language and thus lack individual names. Determined to rescue the captives, Sheriff Hunt assembles a posse comprising of Samantha's husband Arthur, backup deputy Chicory, and James Bruder. The arduous journey in itself was a mess, and it all becomes Old Testament with blood and bones when they actually enter the abode of the troglodytes. Directed and written by S. Craig Zoller, Bone Tomahawk skillfully blends elements of the Western genre with great visual horror. Although the film has a runtime of 132 minutes, you'll find yourself gripped by the movie throughout. Furthermore, the presence of seasoned actor Kurt Russell in the lead role, supported by a talented cast, adds to the enjoyment and haunting nature of the overall experience. What sets Bone Tomahawk apart is its inclusion of raw cannibalism, elevating the film beyond a typical Western. While the narrative initially unfolds at a deliberately slow pace, it gradually intensifies, and a character enduring the horrific fate of having their scalp brutally torn apart and then being bisected alive are just a few of the disturbing scenes in the movie. But it's far from an unintelligent body horror film. Interestingly, the final act of the film takes place in a cave that holds significance, as it's the same cave where Tony Stark constructs the first Iron Man suit in a separate film. I think you should definitely check out our video exploring the troglodytes. I'll leave a link in the description. Ravenous, 1999. Ravenous is centered around John Boyd, a second lieutenant in the United States Army, who achieves a military victory through a cowardly act of playing dead during the capture of a Mexican command post. Outraged by his cowardly action, General Slauson transfers Boyd to a remote outpost called Fort Spencer in the Sierra Nevada mountains. At Fort Spencer, Colonel Hart serves as the commanding officer, leading a group of soldiers who are a little more than incompetent. The story takes a sinister turn when a stranger named Colquhoun arrives at the fort and recounts his harrowing experiences. He explains that his wagon became lost in the mountains, and he and his companions were stranded for nearly 3 months. Gripped by starvation, they resorted to cannibalism to survive. Following this revelation, a search party is organized to rescue the survivors. However, a Native American named George shares a disturbing Wendigo myth with the men. According to the legend, those who consume human flesh gain strength, but also become addicted to it. As the soldiers venture into a cave, they discover the remains of the dead and several human skeletons, realizing that too many have engaged in cannibalism to ensure their survival. Noted actors such as Guy Pearce, Robert Carlyle, and David Arquette feature in Ravenous, a film that draws loose inspiration from the real-life events of the Donner Party, a group of Americans who became trapped in the snowy Sierra Nevada mountains. When their supplies dwindled, they turned to cannibalism, consuming those who succumbed to the harsh conditions and illness. The infamous Colorado cannibal, Alfred Packer, serves as a mild inspiration as well. Despite its focus on the gruesome subject of cannibalism, director Antonia Bird infuses the film with a darkly humorous tone. So essentially, this dark comedy also incorporates elements of vampirism and cannibalism, without relying too heavily on either, striking a delicate balance that contributes to its distinction as a cinematic fresh air, if not a masterpiece. Unsettling scenes, such as individuals consuming raw flesh and enjoying freshly made human stew, could be a bit too much if you're watching the film during mealtime. Near Dark, 1987. Near Dark follows the story of Caleb Colton, a young man who encounters a mysterious drifter named May on one fateful night. And as the movie's title would suggest, the chance encounter happened just before dawn. Offering her a car ride, Caleb receives more than he bargained for when May bites him before vanishing. The next day, Caleb experiences the adverse effects of the bite, discovering that he has been turned into a vampire. Witnessing Caleb's abduction by May's vampire family, his sister Sarah and father Loy are left in shock. On the other hand, the vampire group is led by an ancient vampire named Jesse, and they want to kill Caleb, but May intervenes, claiming that she's already converted him. To gain the group's trust, Caleb must adapt to his new existence by learning to hunt and kill. While Caleb and May fall in love, the arrival of Sarah and Loy forces Caleb to choose between his newfound love and his family. Near Dark distinguishes itself from typical vampire films by skillfully avoiding common cliches. There are no transformations into flying creatures, and the group struggles to find prey while evading law enforcement, which is actually quite practical and believable. The film presents a fresh take on the vampire genre, never uttering the term vampire throughout its narrative. Director Catherine Bigelow intended to depict the prevalent issue of drug addiction from a different perspective. This unique approach contributes to the film's sense of realism and psychological depth. Unlike traditional vampire stories that often involve the slaughter of innocent victims or the inclusion of characters like Van Helsing and their trusty crossbows, Near Dark incorporates additional themes such as love, family, morality, and the complexities of sexual desires. But at the end of the day, Near Dark remains a Western in style, essence, and feel.
Must be a million of them! Nope, just one.
Tremors, 1990. Tremors begins with Val McKee and Earl Bassett, who work as handymen in the remote town of Perfection, Nevada, situated in the desert east of the Sierra Nevada mountains. One day, they decide to go to another town, but as they depart, they discover the lifeless body of a local named Edgar Deems, atop an electrical tower. Edgar had died of dehydration, seemingly too afraid to climb down. Val and Earl attempt to seek help after warning the townspeople, only to find that the phone lines are down and the road out of town is blocked by a rock slide. Unbeknownst to them, a snake-like creature, aka a graboid, wraps itself around their truck's rear axle. However, Val manages to free them by accelerating and driving away, tearing the creature apart. In their quest for assistance, Val and Earl borrow horses and head towards Bixby. Along the way, they come across the buried station wagon of Jim Wallace, the town's doctor, and his wife. Continuing their journey, they suddenly encounter an enormous graboid that emerges from the ground. Thrown from their horses, Val and Earl flee with the creature in pursuit. The chase concludes when the eyeless monster crashes through a concrete wall, meeting its demise. Rhonda Lebec, a graduate student conducting seismology tests in the area, inadvertently stumbles upon the scene and deduces that 3 other worms are present in the area. Tremors is a horror comedy that skillfully balances the delicate line between the two genres. I mean, it doesn't sway too far on either side and maintains a perfect balance between horror and comedy, which is the single most important reason behind the love it gets. It pays homage to creature feature films of the 1950s and 1960s, such as The Deadly Mantis, The Giant Leeches, and The Crab Monsters. The director, Ron Underwood, exhibits a confident and assured filmmaking style, deftly blending awesome characters and genuine menace to create an engaging viewing experience. You know what? The narrative unfolds like a rustic version of Dune, and the graboids are far too reminiscent of Dune's massive sandworms. Underwood used clean and classical shooting techniques, ensuring that the focus remained on the action while maintaining a subtle sense of suspense. Dead Birds, 2004. Dead Birds is set during the American Civil War in 1861. The story revolves around a group of Confederate outlaws led by William, including Sam, Clyde, Joseph, Todd, and Annabelle, who rob a bank and aim to escape to Mexico with stolen gold. However, due to nightfall and a thunderstorm, they seek shelter in a barn near an abandoned plantation. As they travel the plantation, the group encounters a scarecrow resembling a crucified human. It becomes apparent that the seemingly deserted farmhouse is not entirely uninhabited. Years prior, the property belonged to a farmer who experienced profound grief after his beloved wife's demise. Driven to madness, he resorted to native black magic in an attempt to bring her back to life. In his desperation, he sacrificed his own children and anyone in proximity to his home. This heinous and diabolical act not only failed to resurrect his wife, but also transformed the victims into malevolent entities, destined to kill anyone who entered the house. Upon discovering the truth, the local villagers crucified the man on his own plantation. The evil spirits haunting the farmhouse gradually begin to possess William and his companions. As the night progresses, dark horrors unfold, testing their survival. Director Alex Turner and writer Simon Barrett effectively blend Western and horror elements in Deadbirds. Although minor flaws can be observed in the special and visual effects, the film offers an array of chilling scenes. Each character confronts a distinct, demonic entity, evoking strong echoes of H.P. Lovecraft's work through the necromantic elements depicted in the film. The sheer topography of the farmhouse, with no specific roads or paths leading to it, tells us that something is entirely wrong, that something sinister is brewing in that house and the plantation. Michael Shannon delivers a standout performance as Clyde, as does Nikki Acox in the role of Annabelle. The Wind, 2018. The film is set in the late 19th century American frontier around New Mexico. The story revolves around Lizzie and her husband Isaac, who seek to establish a settlement in the unpopulated area. It's not before long that they are joined by Emma and Gideon Harper, who arrive from Illinois to start living in another abandoned cabin. Lizzie forms a bond with Emma and helps her repair the cabin and grow crops, while also confiding in her about her own stillborn son. Lily's increasing paranoia about a demonic presence visiting her during Isaac's absence is revealed. Late one night, Gideon informs Lizzie and Isaac that Emma is unwell. Lizzie finds Emma hiding and speaking incoherently, revealing her fear of a supernatural entity that wants her unborn child. Throughout Emma's pregnancy, she continues to express her concerns about the supernatural presence, but Lizzie dismisses them. Tragically, Emma apparently takes her own life with Lizzie's shotgun. But is that what really transpired? The film delves into allegorical themes rather than focusing on historical accuracy, pioneer life, or bloodthirsty ghosts. Its core concept revolves around the overwhelming loneliness that evolves into a deeply unsettling terror. Screenwriter Teresa Sutherland crafted a multi-layered script, engaging audiences on various levels, while director Emma Tammy demonstrated a commanding grasp of her artistic vision through the film's formal aesthetics. Fans of horror may initially experience some impatience with The Wind, particularly when Tammy introduces an unflinchingly brutal tone that may test viewers' thresholds. However, the film exercises restraint in showcasing gore, reserving it for a climactic and grisly conclusion. I believe its true success lies in its feminine reimagining of Western mythology, but the movie triumphs in two more significant aspects. Firstly, it effectively portrays the despair and desolation of isolation, and secondly, the character development feels rather wholesome. The Burrowers, 2008. The Burrowers is set in the year 1879, during a time when pioneers established settlements on the outskirts of civilization while exploring unknown territories. The story revolves around a family from one of these settlements who are mercilessly abducted one night by a group of mysterious assailants. Initially, the kidnappers are mistaken for hostile Native Americans, prompting a group to form with the goal of rescuing the family. Embarking on this perilous journey are a diverse group of individuals: an Irish immigrant in search of his lost love, a young and eager teenager seeking to prove himself, a freedman in pursuit of wealth, and two battle-weary Indian fighters. However, besides the challenges posed by nature's wrath and the tomahawks of hostile tribes, they soon realize that there are otherworldly forces at play, beyond human comprehension, motivating their abductors. These mysterious creatures, known as the Burrowers by Native Americans, originally sustained themselves on buffalo. When the white settlers depleted the buffalo population, the species turned to feed on human flesh. They would hunt nearby Indians first and eventually target the settlers. Among the tribes, the Ute possess knowledge and experience in combating the Burrowers, but the Ute themselves have been persecuted. The Burrowers immerses you in the wild and untamed landscape of the American West, addressing socio-political issues prevalent during that era. Additionally, the film offers a fresh take on the monster genre. The depiction of the creatures as spider-legged flesh-eaters is commendable, although the visual effects used to depict their movements could have improved. However, for enthusiasts seeking a dose of gory spectacle, the film delivers its portrayal of monsters who bury their victims alive, patiently awaiting the commencement of decomposition before indulging in their grisly feast. The screenplay is solid, and the performances of Clancy Brown as John Clay and David Busey as young Bluecoat are on par with the cast of Bone Tomahawk. Writer and director J.T. Petty's efforts resulted in a rather immersive movie, but there was a scope for improvement in the screenplay. Vampires, 1998. Vampires is centered around Jack Crow, a vampire hunter driven by a childhood tragedy that cost him his parents at the hands of bloodsuckers. Working as a seasoned vampire slayer, Jack and his team receive funding from the Vatican to carry out their missions. In their latest assignment, they confront a house infested with the suckers, the bloodsuckers, that is. The team combines machine gun fire to weaken the vampires and then uses mechanical winches to expose them to sunlight, their ultimate weakness. While they successfully eliminate 9 vampires, the elder vampire escapes. Despite the team's celebrations with alcohol and good old lovemaking, Jack harbors concerns about the elder vampire. Jack's apprehensions come to life when the powerful Valak arrives, launching a brutal assault on the intoxicated vampire slayers and biting a woman named Katrina. Jack, along with Katrina and his trusted Lieutenant Montoya, escapes the scene. He reports the incident to Cardinal Alba, who reveals that Valak is the original vampire and is in pursuit of the ancient relic that would grant him the ability to walk in daylight. With limited resources at his disposal, Jack must rally his remaining strength to confront this ancient and formidable vampire. Vampires gained a reputation for its challenging production. Director John Carpenter, contemplating retirement after a series of box office disappointments, was enticed by the film's script. However, executives significantly reduced the film's budget, forcing Carpenter to undertake an uncredited rewrite. Nevertheless, Carpenter utilized the available resources to deliver a graphic, violent, crude, and thrilling film. The tension escalates during the final 35 minutes, featuring elements of sensuality and terror. Carpenter's skills and expertise as a filmmaker shine through, portraying both the protagonist and the antagonist as equally powerful and charismatic. James Woods in the role of Jack Crow and Thomas Ian Griffith as Jan Valak deliver standout performances. The movie marked John Carpenter's resurgence as a horror filmmaker, someone who could work well with Western movies as well. Eyes of Fire, 1983. Eyes of Fire is set in the year 1750 and revolves around a group of pioneers led by preacher Will Smythe, who narrowly escape an attack due to allegations of adultery against him. The group, consisting of individuals of varying ages, embarks on a journey away from their hometown and into a secluded valley. Unbeknownst to them, this valley harbors a malevolent presence that takes on demonic form. As they confront the evil entity, they also face the constant threat of violent Native American tribes. To evade the Shawnee Indians, they venture into a place that instills fear in the tribe due to prevalent superstitions. However, these superstitions prove to be more than some local myth. This Western horror film unfolds gradually and remains more of a slow burn. The initial half of the film focuses on establishing the intricate relationships among the characters, focusing on the seclusion and isolation experienced by Will Smythe and his companions. This deliberate pacing effectively engages the viewer, immersing them in the narrative. The latter half of the film intensifies the action, featuring explosive occurrences involving children, haunting apparitions, sentient trees displaying eerie faces on their barks, and the presence of a poltergeist. However, the film's vibrant and almost psychedelic color scheme may distract viewers from the actual events unfolding on screen. Directed by Avery Crounse, Eyes of Fire evokes a profound sense of paranoia and fear. Noteworthy performances by Dennis Lipscomb and Guy Boyd contribute significantly to the film's impact. Overall, this is one of those films that uses atmosphere as a device to invoke fear, rather than the monsters and ghosts. Grim Prairie Tales, 1990. Grim Prairie Tales compromises a series of interconnected stories set in the Old West and begins with two characters named Morrison and Deeds, who are telling stories as they travel through the prairie. The first story, recounted by Morrison, centers around an Indian tribe seeking revenge against a grumpy old man who desecrates their sacred burial ground. However, this tale fails to impress Deeds, prompting Morrison to share another story. In the second one, a man encounters a seductive woman who appears to be pregnant and in distress. Unbeknownst to the man, the woman is a demonic entity. Displeased with the second story's supernatural theme, Deeds tells his own little tale about a man who was coerced into joining a lynch mob. Feeling challenged by Deeds' tale, Morrison begins telling another one, but this one would have an effect on their real life. Grim Prairie Tales primarily centers around the telling of various stories, and unfortunately, these tales fail to truly engage the audience. With most of the screen time devoted to these narratives, it becomes crucial for them to captivate and leave a lasting impression. Regrettably, only one particular image manages to stand out, a rather peculiar scene involving a man being swallowed up while making love, and that too by the woman. However, amidst the film's shortcomings, there's a silver lining in the form of the bristling dialogue between the actors Brad Dourif and James Earl Jones. Their banter and outrageous insults provide some much-needed entertainment. Whenever the camera focuses on their dynamic, the film becomes bearable, allowing the actors to truly shine.
There is nothing to fear, you cowards! Time to die, Sheriff!
Ghost Town, 1988. Ghost Town revolves around Kate, who abandons her fiancé at the altar and embarks on a solo journey along a highway near Riverton, Arizona. During her drive, she hears the sound of galloping horses accompanying her car. Intrigued, she pulls over but discovers no one is present. Suddenly, a dust cloud surrounds her, causing her to vanish without a trace. Sheriff Langley comes across her deserted vehicle and attempts to investigate, but the car is fired upon by a man riding a horse. The ensuing explosion forces Langley to continue his pursuit on foot. Seeking refuge, he stumbles upon an abandoned ghost town and spends the night in one of its buildings. The following day, he awakens to the presence of various apparitions who appear to be the town's former residents. Meanwhile, a man named Devlin, who exhibits zombie-like characteristics, has abducted Kate. Because of this control over the wandering spirits through a pact with the devil, Devlin keeps them in a constant state of terror. Despite this, the spirits assist Langley in his mission to overcome Devlin. However, the question remains, will Langley survive and succeed in rescuing Kate? While Ghost Town features commendable performances and skillful cinematography, its predictable storyline haunts the film. The screenplay occasionally falters, yet the visual aesthetics are captivating. Serving as a pioneer in the Western genre with a touch of the supernatural, the film presents a fresh take on the zombie subgenre. Inspired by a story written by David Schmoller, the film revolves around a man's quest to free a ghost town from an ancient curse. The strong performances of Frank Lutz as Langley, Catherine Hicklin as Kate, and Jimmy F. Skaggs as Devlin greatly contribute to the film's success, preventing it from faltering. Although it shouldn't be overlooked, Ghost Town would have benefited from further refinements. Dust Devil, 1992. Dust Devil is set in Namibia, where a Sangoma named Joe Neiman recounts a tale about the titular monsters. These anthropomorphized desert winds are said to wander the highways, hunting and killing unsuspecting humans. Later, a dust devil takes the life of a woman who had picked him up to make love. He proceeds to set her house ablaze and leaves her lifeless body in the car. Meanwhile, strange phone calls with eerie voices reach Sergeant Ben Mukarab in the town of Bethany and Wendy Robinson in Johannesburg, South Africa. The following morning, the Dust Devil sets Sark's house on fire and departs using her vehicle. Sergeant Ben Mukarab and Captain Bayman investigate the scene, discovering peculiar pictographs on the walls. Joe explains that these symbols possess mystical significance, but Sergeant Ben remains skeptical. Later, a Dust Devil encounters Wendy in her car. Spotting another Dust Devil hitchhiking, he instructs Wendy to drive past without stopping, subsequently vanishing from the car. Unbeknownst to Wendy, Dust Devil covertly observes her as she seeks shelter for the night at a small hotel. But clearly, the Dust Devil is waiting for her. Is she the only one in danger? Well, of course, there are more lives at risk. Dust Devil is a deeply personal film by director Richard Stanley that distinguishes itself from Stanley's previous films like Hardware. While it possesses the strengths of a lean and effective horror movie, its true essence lies in its hallucinatory nature. Clearly more than just a straightforward boogeyman tale, it ventures into the realm of the surreal and explores the boundaries of perception.
There is nothing to fear, you cowards! Time to die, Sheriff!
Marvelous verdict. In conclusion, the fusion of horror and Western genres has birthed a rare and intriguing subgenre. While early examples may have leaned towards schlocky B-grade entertainment, the 1970s marked a turning point, giving rise to a fertile breeding ground for high-quality horror westerns. Over the following decade, the subgenre evolved and attracted renowned directors like Clint Eastwood, Catherine Bigelow, and John Carpenter, among others. But what do you think about these movies? Or better yet, which one's your favorite? And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button on your way out. Have a good one, folks!